Well, one of the recommendations of former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela's State of Capture report was for the establishment of a national inquiry into the extent of state capture. So that inquiry sought to investigate the role of the Gupta family at government entities and at state-owned enterprises. The family is accused of having stolen billions of rand through doing business with the state. So 3 years later, South Africa's longest-running corruption inquiry with a price tag of around R1 billion has concluded, with over 300 witnesses having taken the stand. Today, State Capture Inquiry Chair and current Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will finally hand over the first of 3 parts of the report to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and that's outside of the interdict by Democracy in Action to prevent that from taking place. Former Public Protector and current Chair of Stellenbosch University's Law Trust in Social Justice, Professor Thuli Madonsela, joins us now for her reflections. Prof, it's always wonderful talking to you. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning on the program. Incredible to think, and I'm sure this moment for you is a big one, the handing over of the first of 3 parts of the State Capture Inquiry report in what has been an incredible 3 years of testimony.
Absolutely. Good morning, and thank you for the privilege. It is a great day that finally, 5 years later, we get to hear the truth about the state capture allegations.
Prof, I mean, that is the big question, isn't it? You're saying finally we get to hear the truth about the state capture allegations. I mean, is it normal for ordinary South Africans this morning to be hesitant about whether that will indeed be the case when the report is released to the public?
Well, absolutely. People are always skeptical, and people don't go in one direction. But I have said in the last 5 years, let's give the Commission a chance. Let's hear what it has to say. And the investigation is a very simple investigation. Was the Minister of Finance improperly fired through the influence of the Guptas? And we're talking here about Minister Nhlanhla Nene. And was that part of a broader systemic capture of the state by a collaboration or collusion between the Gupta family and the Zuma family? And was the state captured to support the businesses that were co-owned by the president's son and the Gupta family? And the rest of it is really detailed.
If you look back at the Commission's work over the past 3 years, Professor Madonsela, are you satisfied, just in the main, about how the Commission was run over these past 3 years?
It's really not my place to judge how the Commission was run. Each person deals with these matters based on what they know and the theory of change they have. Of course, the commission that I ordered, I didn't recommend, I ordered as public protector, had a very narrow focus. It was whether the firing of the Minister of Finance was at the influence of the Gupta family, and whether this was part of a broader capture of parts of the state and repurposing those to support the business interests of the Gupta family, which owned businesses with the president's son. And everything else is detailed, but you must recall that President Zuma, probably using his powers as president to appoint commissions of inquiry, expanded the investigation into a kitchen sink approach where anything and everything could come in, and that's why it's taken 4 years to come here. So the investigation I ordered at most would have taken 6 months.
Given what you've just outlined about how actually quite narrow the scope of the investigation that you ordered at the time was it useful, in your view, to expand it to the point where you say it became a kitchen sink investigation into state capture?
It was improper to do so, but it was useful. In a way, we lost some things and we gained something. What did we lose? We lost focus, we lost money, we lost time. Currently, the country is bordering on ungovernable because there's still elements within the state and there's still peoples that should be held accountable. And that could have been prevented if the investigation had been narrow, just focusing on the firing of the Minister of Finance and then the allegations that this was part of a systemic capture of the state. And of course, the evidence that was necessary in that regard would have included what was said by Mr. Maseko, Ms. Mencho, and a few others, but it would have been focused. And therefore, we would have been able to arrest the rot within the state faster and held people accountable faster. But despite the fact that we lost time and we lost ability to hold people accountable and also to get the money back, we gained in that, the kitchen sink approach brought a whole lot of information about what's wrong in state affairs that could be classified as corruption. A lot of it cannot be classified as state capture. I will be surprised if it is classified as state capture. For example, Agrizi entertained us a lot about how people were being fed to do certain things. If we look at the World Bank definition of state capture and the state capture definition I used, that wouldn't amount to state capture. That would be grand corruption. Because state capture is when elements of the state, but primarily the head of the state and key decision makers in government, are captured for the purposes of informing or controlling policy and processes in government. So it's not just about getting benefits, but it's when you have a shadow state that is running out there and determining what's happening in government. Whilst we're sitting here thinking that the people are governing through the people they elected, that's not happening. A handful of people are leveraging the power they have over the head of state and other people in government to govern illegally or illicitly.
Yeah, I remember the organization. I can't remember it now off the top of my head, but the organization that came on the first few days of the state capture inquiry and gave us that presentation of what the term state capture means. Prof, I'm sure you can recall that as well. The way that your report has changed and will no doubt continue to change the political landscape in our country. I think it's probably difficult for us to understand the extent of what emanated from that report, even though you say, as you say, it didn't follow exactly what your recommendations were insofar as the inquiry that was meant to be held when you ordered it. But the way that it altered our landscape in the country in so many ways, we'll probably only come to understand in the years to come.
Absolutely. That's why I say that whilst we lost a lot in terms of speed, accountability, and the money that could have been recouped, we gained a lot in terms of shining a lens on all kinds of rot that can be classified as corruption within the South African state.
So as that first part of the state capture report is handed over to the President, there is that interdict that is still in the High Court in Johannesburg, Professor Madonsela. But the hope, of course, is that it doesn't sit on the President's desk, isn't it? The public now has a right to know what the report says.
Well, absolutely. The order in the state capture investigation or report of the perpetrator is that the report should go to the President, and when he has studied it, he should within 14 days send it to Parliament. But a court has granted the President more time to look at the report. I must indicate that the interdict is mischievous. These people have known for 5 years that the report will go to the President, and they did nothing in 5 years. But more importantly, the state capture investigation that I ordered as public protector did not implicate the current president, because it was a very clear issue whether, for the benefit of companies owned by the president's son and the Gupta family, his office and other elements of the state were captured and repurposed to advance those interests. And whether the Minister of Finance, Nhlanhla Nene, was fired because he was standing in the way of the interests of companies that were co-owned by the president's son and the Gupta family.
Professor Thuli Madonsela, it's always a great pleasure talking to you on the AM Report. Let me thank you for your time on this Tuesday morning. Professor Thuli Madonsela is the current chair of Stellenbosch University's Law Trust in Social Justice. And of course, we speak to her today as former public protector as well.